No matter what you do, whether it's work, play, or living healthy, life requires fuel. At Health Empowers You, we focus on quality to help give you the most fuel for your life. So let us help you get empowered. Stop by healthempowersyou.net today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirituality and Success with Reverend Dr. Tracy Cox, brought to you by the Health Empowers You Network. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Tracy Cox, and my guest today is intuitive transformation strategist, Brett Ford. So welcome, Brett. Welcome to the show.
Thank
you. Thank you for coming on today. And today we're talking about a really important subject, and the topic is joy as a compass, embracing movement as medicine. So it's such a timely topic with everything going on in the world today. But first, Brett, I'd love it if you would give us a little introduction to what you do and who you are. So take it away, Brett.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I help people kind of work through their areas where they're stuck. I help people kind of figure out where their energy isn't aligned and kind of remember who they are and allow themselves to kind of work through their areas of weakness and kind of break through and break free from those kind of chains. I like to think about us as unchaining our souls. So that's a little bit about me, and I do help through coaching and a bunch of different type of stuff. So there's lots of fun to do with that, but I do want to talk about movement as medicine today, and joy as a compass, and all the wonderful stuff that comes from that. When we think about medicine, we're thinking about, I have a native background, and, thinking about all the different types of medicine that we don't usually think about. So, when we're thinking about movement, that can act as a type of medicine. When we're thinking about giving someone a hug, that can act as medicine. There's so many different types of medicine. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, laughter is the best medicine.
That's right.
It's so true. Everything can be a part of medicine. We can't think about healing in the traditional sense, even from a native sense, where we're making something, some sort of concoction to brew and allow ourselves to take. That stuff has its place, but so does joy. And so it's so important that we live our lives like that. So.
Well, that makes complete sense. And as a spiritual coach, when I help people, quite often they'll come to me, they're feeling depressed, they've got no energy, they want to know, like, their joie de vivre is gone, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
the biggest thing is, if you could do anything in the world that brings you joy, what would it be? And, to get people's minds going in the direction of what they want as opposed to what they do not want. Because a lot of the time people, when they're in a depressive state, they're looking at all the bad, they're looking at the things that are going wrong. Quite often they're staying in bed, they're not moving.
Yes,
And so,
absolutely.
so one of the first things that I really like to do is to get them, up, moving. Let's see, maybe you can just go for a walk around your neighborhood. Maybe you can just get up, make your bed. And that's what we're talking about with movement as medicine, because it changes the whole dynamic with your energy, and with the way that your mind's going to work, because our bodies need us to move and get around and get that blood flowing, right? So
it's so important, because there's so many things, when you're dancing, you're literally just shaking off that stagnant energy. And it's something that you can kind of do throughout the day. If you're sitting in your work desk or your work chair, and you're just, it's like, just stand up and shake it out. It might seem silly, but when you're just sitting and you're just like not moving, that energy can't flow through you the way it really needs to, right?
That's right.
And like you're saying, so much of our lives, everything, like, bodies in motion tend to stay in motion, right? That's the classic quote. And so when we're just stuck, when we get into a depressive state, we end up in a place where we're not we don't have that motion. So to get out of it, we have to just start, we have to go to sleep on time. We have to eat right. We have to do all of those things. But a key thing that we always forget is like, are you getting out of the house? Are you moving? Are you seeing people? How are you incorporating all of these things into your life to allow you to get back and allow your mind to create the happy chemicals again, the dopamine? It's like you're not going to be able to do that without physicality. And so, even exercise, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be complicated either. That's the thing. It's like, just, if you need a hug, give someone a hug, or ask for a hug. It's like those types of things are.
That's right. Go pet the dog.
Yeah,
Go pet the cat. Yeah, it's just the simple things of moving. I find,
exactly.
especially with modern day, with our devices, and of course, as I sat down to do this with you, somebody starts calling me on my device.
Oh, yeah.
So I apologize. I had to turn off my phone as soon as we start talking. Somebody's at me, right? And it's so easy to be like, ugh, hunched over it all day long,
Yeah,
especially if you've got your own business. And we have to get away from it. We have to stand up, like you're saying. Now, one of the things I like to try to do that I found has really helped in the last year is every hour make sure that you stand up and do 10 squats.
exactly.
Simple, right?
Yeah, you
But
can
it
even set an
really,
alarm for that too.
yeah, exactly. And so I really encourage everyone and everybody that's watching today, because it's so easy to fall into um, couch lock or chair lock. And
hmm
then you're wondering why, I've got pins and needles in my legs and I feel so tired. And it's all from the fact that our energy centers of the body, and I mean, people in the new age talk about the chakras of the body.
Yeah,
There's a lot of scientific studies going on now to look at the energy centers of the body, and they can see that it's almost like a fountain. It goes
yeah,
around like this, if we're standing in the center, it fountains around us. So it needs to keep moving. And
exactly.
I went to a workshop with a painter named Alex Gray, and he's quite famous, and he does a lot of uh, he started off doing anatomy painting for the
Okay.
anatomy books. So he was very involved in, painting the cadavers and things like that.
Yeah,
And so, but as he had a spiritual awakening, he could see these energy fountains, the residual, and started to be very interested in the way that the energy centers of the body move. And now, if you look at his work, it's all about that. It shows
yeah.
the shapes of the energy fountains of the body. So that's what we're trying to do as a spiritual wellness coach, somebody like you that's trying to help people get in touch with that
hmm
spiritual side of things, and really that spiritual energy is what runs our bodies. That's the electrical system,
Absolutely.
right? So we have to take care of it.
And when you're kind of going throughout the day, like you were saying with the phones, you're being bombarded throughout the day. Everything is trying to take your attention away. And so what happens is, as our attention is going outwards, we forget to look inwards. And so many things, it's like, if you were to recenter on yourself, you might be like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit sore down here. It's like, if you can recenter and allow yourself, you actually end up, when you're stretching and you're breathing deeply, all of these things, they actually they help reset your nervous system. So, and that's so important because our nervous system is being taxed. I always like to take people through the senses thing, where you think about 5 things that you're seeing right now, 4 things that you're hearing, 3 things that you're smelling, 2 things that you're tasting, and then, if you're touching something, like what is touching you, and all of those things. When you go through that kind of system there, you end up realizing how much around you is affecting you, and that's not even other people's energies. That's nothing. And so it's so important that you end up just realizing what is affecting you, and are able to get up and move through that.
So as we're talking about joy as a compass to lead you to these things, how do you use that with your clients to help them with their health and wellness?
Yeah, so joy, I just love to think about joy. It's like it's your true north. So, it's different when, there's fleeting joys. There's things that, you get a hit, you're like, oh, that's exciting. But it's like, what is like the lasting deep excitement underneath? What is joyful in your life? Is it your family? Is it your business? Is it your, your art? What is it? And it's like, as we're kind of connecting those things, can we incorporate the movement? Can we look at the joy as a way that the more joy that we're having, it's going to lead us and allow those synchronicities to come in to lead us to the next step. So when you're following kind of what makes up your light, the laughter, the play, the connection, the creativity, you're really aligning with your spirit's direction. And that's something we don't ever think about. It's like, oh, they say, oh, well, you got to work hard, you got to do all those things. And those are necessary. But at the same time, if you're not living a joyful life, you don't allow your spirit to flourish the way it's meant to.
Absolutely. And once again, bringing it back to this culprit.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of the time people are scrolling and doom scrolling, and they're looking at precisely what does not bring them joy. Okay.
Yeah.
They're focusing on the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And we really need to get control of that, and we need to focus on what we're trying to build in our life, focus on what gives us joy, as they're saying, happiness, focusing on long term what's going to bring us joy and happiness too, because all this finding fault and, oh, I can't stand this person, oh, it's so negative, and it is a negative vortex that completely,
it's just, once you're in that spiral, you're just caught in it. And so it's like, I've seen, you have to kind of up spiral your life. It's that whole attitude. It's like, if you're focused on the negativity all the time, can we start, all you have to do is stop the system. So it's like, when you're feeling that negativity, oh, it's like, oh, I recognize I'm feeling this, but I don't want to feel this. So I'm just going to push this off to the side. I've allowed it to be, and now I'm going to recenter myself and replace it with a happy thought. When we're thinking about kids, even, they don't really ask for permission to be themselves. They just go and dance. They laugh, they imagine. And it's like allowing our inner child to kind of come up and guide the way, because it's like, you're safe. You're in a place where you're safe because you've gone through some of the lessons. You've grown up. You have responsibilities. But it's like, how can we protect and allow that inner child that we had to kind of come out in all these different ways? Because that's what really will help guide you. I always find that's a simple, just kind of cue for people. Just like, what did you enjoy as a kid? Like, what was it about being a kid that allowed you to be joyful? And if you were to follow that now, where does that lead you?
Now, do you find when you ask those questions to your clients that are looking for improvement, can they tell you that? Or are they have they forgotten? Because that's what I find. A lot of people, it's been deeply traumatic for many people, especially people that have they're in a depressive state because it's been rough.
Yeah.
And we're not saying false positive love and light and just don't talk about things that are rough. You have to do the shadow work too. But
so
you can't
important.
dwell in that shadow work. You have to dwell in what you can change, dwell in facing challenges in a positive way. And I like to talk about Neville Goddard a lot, who's like part of manifestation, classic spiritualist texts, where you think with the end in mind. So you think about, where do you want to be? How do you want to see yourself? How do you want to feel? You immerse yourself in that. And as you immerse yourself in that, your spirit figures out how to make that happen.
Absolutely.
And your body will follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just it. It's like, yes, a lot of people are stuck. So like, that's why, like, my system is like a 5-step system.
Okay.
And so, we're going through the whole shebang. We have to remember all, who we are, and we have to go through all this work to allow ourselves to release and then embody who we really are. So yes, like sometimes sometimes it just depends on where you are on the stage, and there's no right or wrong. Some people have a little more work to do, and that's okay. But it's like, even while you're doing the harder work, the stuff that really forces you to look at your life, you can incorporate the joy, and it actually makes the whole process easier. And when you're, using movement, when you're doing those things, all we're doing is allowing the natural process to come up and to heal these things. Like, my belief is that good healers don't actually do any healing. We set space for people. And so when we're setting space for people and we're setting the energy of healing, that's when breakthroughs really happen for people, because, you've set a safe space, there's joy, there's all these things, and it allows somebody to do the work themselves and really get to where they want to be. But yeah, I do want to tie in kind of how they connect.
Sure. Please.
So it
Please do.
doesn't mean, yeah. And these things don't mean you have to be an athlete. You don't have to do that stuff. It's all just about turning on your favorite song in the kitchen, when you're doing chores. Not every meaningless, menial task has to be hard. Sure, we have to, again, be responsible, but it's like, turn on the music and vibe out while you're putting the dishes away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Laugh with your friends.
That's right. If you
it's
turn on some Lainey Wilson and get going on your cleaning, it's going to be fun, right?
Exactly. And we all have to go through the challenges and those tasks we don't want to do. But it's like, okay, how can we make them better during that time? So we're setting that intention and that belief and that understanding that it's like, we're going to just have fun. This is going to, kind of suck, but we're going to just have fun during it. And that's what really allows that task to go quicker, even, because you're singing along. You're like, oh my gosh, the song's not even done and I'm done.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. That's absolutely what I do too. And it works so well. And, it gets everybody involved having a good time. And that's what it's all about, right? So simple changes that people can do are so important, just to lighten the mood. I mean, as you said, laughter is the best medicine. Getting people laughing, bringing people together. It makes such a huge difference. And it's such a small thing to do that has an incredible payoff. So
exactly. And it's, the biggest changes that I've personally seen working with people is nobody ever changes overnight. You've seen all those success stories, all overnight success stories. They're never real, right? It's like,
that's right.
Those people have been doing so much work over the years, and like all of a sudden they get their big break, and so that's right. One example, but it's like, that's how everything in life works. It's the small, consistent daily changes. What are you adding? Can you get up in the morning and as soon as you wake up, shake your system out, for 2 minutes, put on a song, shake it out, because that also gets, your blood pumping, all the stuff flowing, I can't remember the word for it, but there's, we're allowing our body to kind of get in a state ready for the day. Little something even so small makes such a huge difference, because then when you get up, you're excited, you're ready for that part, right? And so as we incorporate these little changes, putting on a song while you brush your teeth, just it's so simple. Like it's just little changes that we just add, once a month, we just add another little change. And then all of a sudden, a year from now, you have a totally different life, because your attitude has changed. You're in a positive state. You're making better choices. You're wanting to live healthier. I find if I go on vacation and I stop working out, all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, I'm a little sore, and it's like hard to get back into it.
That's
but you
right.
just do
or
it.
A little getting tired when you normally wouldn't, things like that. Yeah, and we don't want to harp on that, because everybody has their different level of comfort with working out and how much they do
of course.
But
it's simple, like
anybody
going for
can do something. Yeah, anybody can do something. Even people like my I coach a lot of caregivers that do for older people, people that have dementia, Alzheimer's, or, in a wheelchair. And there's still so many things that they can do. Like there's chair yoga, there is chair dancing. And once they put the tunes on, all of a sudden, everybody comes to life and has a great time. And there's a moments of joy, even though it is such a hard job to
Hmm.
look after adults that have got dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. But there's something that everybody can come together with, and
Yeah.
that's music, dancing, fun. So what we're talking about is just injecting that not in a forced way, but in a casual way, in a fun way,
Yeah,
right? We're not saying
exactly.
you have to get to class or just work it into your life, right?
Just, yeah, little things. Like, again, I always get so big because over time, like, that's my energy, right? But it's very much uh, the little things. What is it going to do? What is it every day that you can add to your life that will just start your day off a little better, right? That will start you off with a smile. And it's just simple changes over time that really drive home this joy, and leading, it being your compass, and then moving and getting our body flowing. They interconnect so
Absolutely.
well. So
Yeah,
yeah, it doesn't have to
absolutely.
be grandiose. It's the simple, easy things. Because even with a lot of spiritual stuff, we end up taking it so far, and it's like, it doesn't, we don't even have to worry about chakras. We don't have to worry about this. We don't have to worry about that. What simple things, because not everybody understands all that. So it's like, what
That's
simple
right.
thing can you do that's going to help you every single day feel better? And that's as simple as it is.
Yeah,
What does your body
absolutely.
need?
And it can be very, very simple. One other thing, just to go back to caregivers, and it's been highly studied, is the power of 3 deep breaths. So anytime
Yeah.
they get stressed, deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, 3
I love
times.
breath work.
And
Yes.
the breath work, what happens then is that puts your attention into the executive function part of your brain, and that is the part of your brain where you look at your problems with the eyes of an eagle, as
I
opposed to
love
just
that.
being down there in them, right? So
Hmm.
you look from above, and you can make better choices. You can diffuse things before they ramp up, with anger, frustration, and they notice that if somebody does this continuously, whenever they get stressed, they find it's usually about 5 times a day that things get bad enough that they wanna do that, right? That all of a sudden their blood pressure is in the normal range.
Yeah.
Imagine that, like, it really has a massive impact.
Yes,
These
we're
little
resetting our
tiny
nervous
things.
system.
That's right.
It's like, again, your nervous system is so overtaxed in this modern world, and it's like, how can we reset that? And it's so simple, and so that's amazing to hear that, it's working on a practical level.
Yes, it
and
is.
uh and that's the thing. So, it's one of these things where it's like, spirit kind of wants people to stop waiting for joy and movement to come,
Yes.
and just start living it. That's the
Yes,
simple message for today.
that's right. I
That is
agree with that
healing.
100%. That's healing. Yeah, that's healing, and there will always be stress, there will always be challenges.
Hmm.
Just because in the last 100 years things have really shifted where the challenges are. 100, 200 years ago, the biggest thing that we would have been worried about was essentially, getting our food.
Yep.
We'd all be living on a farm pretty much with our families, uh, fighting off bears.
Yeah.
It was very stressful, believe me.
Exactly.
Everybody's like, "Oh, I wish we could go back to the old days." It's like, it's just a different form of
Well,
stress.
you don't have time, even when you're living that. You don't have time to think about your mental needs, because you're living in a place where you just have to survive. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where just, it's like, we've solved the first one. So it's like, okay, of course things like depression and all these stuff are going to come, because now we actually have time to think about those stuff, because we're not forced into a place where we have to fight for survival, or not, in, at least in Western society, for the most part, we don't have to
Sure.
worry about those things. So allowing ourselves to also be something we look up to. It's like as we learn these things, as we develop these skills that we've never had to use before, right? Because we've never been in a place where we didn't have to worry about these things. We can finally allow ourselves to realize that there's more to life, and we can follow our joy and allow it to lead to the things that we're supposed to be doing here. I really believe that your joy, because it's completely different from my joy, is showing you a path to the life you're supposed to live. That's why we're all different, right? So
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, so listen, we're at the 25-minute mark, so
yeah.
we need to wrap this up. But I'd love to have you back on because we could talk about this all day.
Oh, of
Obviously,
course.
different aspects. So why don't you give us one more little blurb about what you do and where people can find you? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brett.
So I'm at www.unchainedsouls.com. Again, I'm growing it. I do intuitive readings. I do coaching. I have some programs. I have a lot of free stuff as well, like shadow work and things like that,
Great.
right on my site. So if you want to check me out, there's the best place to go. And yeah, I'd love to come back on when you have a chance, Tracy. I've got lots of stuff to talk about, and I love chatting with you. So thank you so
Yeah,
much
it's
for
fun.
having me.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. Thanks for coming on. And I just want to thank everybody for listening to this today. And hopefully you'll take something away from this and maybe change one thing that makes life a little bit more fun for you. And you will reap those health improvements for sure. So maybe it's just putting a tune on that you love while you're um, cleaning the house, doing something you don't like, cleaning the bathrooms, whatever it is, try to find your joy when you can, and try to find your humor when you can, because it's such a great way to live, and you will find that the benefits will blow your mind. Okay, so thanks again.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming, Brett. And I'm going to put up a screen and end this, but stay on and then we can chat after. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for joining us.